will be subject, if they can make this work, to vaccines. We're undergoing a soft coup, and the idea is to create a whole new set of laws and ignore the existing human rights laws and other laws under the pretext of pandemic preparedness and the biosecurity agenda. The WHO is developing through all its nations, but with the WHO Directorate in the United States in charge, a pandemic treaty and amendments to the existing international health regulations that will remove the human rights protections currently embedded in the IHRs, will enforce surveillance, censorship, get rid of freedom of speech, require governments to censor and only push a single narrative. Also, we will be subject, if they can make this work, to vaccines developed in 100 days, which the organization CEPI is planning to do. And one of the people who founded CEPI was Jeremy Farrar, who is now the chief scientist at the WHO, to bring this forward. Other things that amendments do is to bind the states so they are no longer recommendations but enforceable edicts. Provide a liability shield, get rid of intellectual property rights, move supplies from one country to another, enforce digital passports, and the Director General of WHO can demand that a pandemic or a potential pandemic exists. He can just declare it with no standards, and then countries around the world will have to obey. Also, the WHO will tell you what drugs you can and can't use in your nation once a pandemic is declared. Obviously, the budget will increase. One Health is another part of this. One Health is a concept that was created to enable the WHO, with these documents, to take over jurisdiction of everything in the world by saying that climate change, animals, plants, water systems, ecosystems are all central to health. Also embedded in this concept is a peculiar notion that humans are no longer of greater value than animals.
Hello guys, David Vos here. Well, I am not having a good day. It is probably gotta be one of the most ridiculous moments I've ever seen in my lifetime, that we are experiencing this crisis, and I don't think you understand yet what's really going on. So I'm going to share some information with you, and I ask you please to listen very carefully to everything I'm saying. This is not clickbait. I am not fear-mongering. I am warning you with a real, urgent message that you must take very seriously. So, I thought I'd ask AI if this woman is real, when this actually was occurring, and what's going on. So, this is going to literally blow your mind. I think this is the most disturbing thing I have ever heard in my life. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, I've heard about a lot of things. I think the most disturbing thing I ever witnessed was the thingy that we went through during that period of time from 2020 or whatever year that was. I was shocked to find out that one day I went to the store and came back and everything was fine. The next day I go to the store and I'm not allowed in. No buying and selling, no going anywhere. People were being fired because they refused to wear a mask. I know people that had really good jobs and went ahead and did the thingy because they were told they would be fired. And this wasn't just a few. It was pretty much everybody, even at McDonald's. I know that if you think about what happened then, it seems incomprehensible. A lot of businesses went bankrupt. There was a lot of things that you could imagine they were trying to do. But even, after all is said and done, now most people are saying it was a scam. Many people lost their lives, but it was an experiment that they were doing, and there's a real reason. The biggest reason was that during that time they got some infrastructure in place. And then from that time to this time, this World Health Organization has been gaining authority, power behind the scenes, getting control. And they're going to have this ratified by May of this year in 2026. So here's what I'm saying to you. I'm going to read something to you. And if that lady and what she said didn't curl your hair, and the only reason why it might not have been as frightening as it could be, is if you thought it was a hoax. Surely the woman couldn't be saying anything like that. Or if you thought, oh no, that was from the pandemic, that was years ago. Friends, that's not something old. That's pretty recent. And it's actually really way worse than you can imagine. And what I've been telling you about getting out of Babylon, I now have to issue a much more urgent message. If you don't do something immediately, friends, it's not going to be pretty. Let me show you what AI had to say. I asked them, I saw a woman talking about the WHO on TikTok. It had at top right corner, europarl.eu. Is this current or a clip from the COVID pandemic? Because I didn't know, and I needed to find out. I thought, well, it must be from the COVID. They're not still doing this, are they? All these distractions we've been going through, AI and the disclosure and Atlas and supposed war in Venezuela and things going on in Minnesota, and yet I haven't heard anybody talking about this thingy that happened, other than, oh yeah, it happened and now let's move on. Surely it will never happen again, right? Guys, it's about to happen again, but it's not going to happen until they get complete control of the government so that they can completely have absolute control of the world. That was only a test run. What they say here is based on the presence of the europarl EU watermark and the context of current events. The TikTok you saw is highly likely a current post-pandemic clip, 2024, 2025, rather than a 2020 pandemic clip. Here is a breakdown of why and what it likely refers to. Context, 2024, 2025. The European Parliament has been actively using TikTok for outreach, particularly around the June 2024 EU elections, even though they previously banned the app from staff phones. The content, WHO disinformation, recent discussions in the European Parliament, late 2024, 2025, have focused heavily on regulating TikTok for spreading disinformation and the role of the WHO in health guidelines. Well, what that means is they're trying to regulate TikTok, YouTube, all the media, so that you are not going to be allowed to dissent. You see, what they said and what they mean is two different things. What they just said was that they're trying to regulate TikTok, but what they're really trying to do is get control of the ability to say whatever you believe on social media. Remember how people were being taken off of YouTube for not saying what they're supposed to say. If you said this or that, not only could you get your channel taken down, but in many cases, people went to jail. Here in this country, you saw the things that was going on in Australia. This has been going on behind the scenes, their takeover of every aspect of the world so that they can, when they do crack down, they will have absolute control. It will make 2020 seem like child's play. Potential speaker. It's possible you saw a European MEP, member of the European Parliament, or a critic discussing the WHO's role in health policies during recent debates. Why it might look like a pandemic clip. While the footage is recent, the topics of the World Health Organization pandemic treaties, vaccine transparency, or health directives often feel like the COVID-19 era. Conclusion. It is a recent video from the European Parliament communications for a politician using the platform, discussing, questioning, or supporting the World Health Organization policies regarding health regulation. Think about it. Health regulation. We're not talking about scientists trying to improve health or governments trying to make the water cleaner. You know, when you're talking about health, right, that should be what it means, that the government's trying to make the air and the water cleaner or give guidelines on companies trying to sell us poisons. But no, what they're doing is giving us regulations on health, and that means whether or not you can travel, whether or not you can leave your house, go into a store, whether or not you must have a thingy or whatever it might be. I said, it's a TikTok from Sandy Fox. Is the woman talking correct? She says it's a soft coup by the WHO. They said the TikTok video shared by Sandy Fox featuring a woman claiming the World Health Organization is staging a soft coup is a clip of Dr. Meryl Nass speaking at the International COVID Summit in May of 2023. All right, so it's not necessarily current. However, this is ongoing, and it's still going on here in 2026, and she's going to explain here that what this lady's talking about will be all finished by May of this year in 2026. And so the concerns this lady has is all real, and it's ongoing discussions. They had to get that lady out of there because she was telling and exposing it. They literally fired her or did something. They got rid of her because of what she was saying. They don't want dissent. It says the claims made in this video are widely considered. In other words, not everybody considers it. Not anybody who is a real person. But yeah, people in the WHO or the government or financed by Bill Gates, yeah, they don't consider her correct. Right? But what do you think? Do you think she's correct? They're not saying she's absolutely lying. And I'll wait till you see this. They're going to admit something profound. And this is why this is so important. Supposedly, it's incorrect by legal experts and international health organizations. Here are the facts regarding the clip, as if we could trust any of these health organizations or governments or even our own government. The origin of the clip. The footage was filmed at a pandemic and vaccine skeptic conference held at the European Parliament building in Brussels of May of 2023. It's an ongoing thing, and this woman said something they didn't like, and you'll see that here in a minute. The woman is Dr. Meryl Nass. She's a doctor, a physician whose medical license was suspended in 2022 for spreading the thingy misinformation. Well, what she was doing was telling us the truth, and for that, she lost her job. She is not a representative of the World Health Organization. I don't suppose she is, because she's telling us the truth, and they don't want you to know the truth. Why would they have her to represent them? She's representing you and I, friends. The accuracy of the soft Q claim. national sovereignty. Legal experts and the WHO state that the proposed pandemic agreement, often called the Pandemic Treaty, does not give the WHO power to override national laws, enforce lockdowns, or mandate vaccines. No, it doesn't. Of course, it's not your government. It's a government that is giving recommendations to your government that your government will follow as they did the first time, because this is all being organized in the channels that are being made throughout the world in the system. People are being fired that don't agree. Dissenters are fired. That's why we know that they will have that power. Enforcement. The WHO has no enforcement mechanism. Of course not. They use our governments. Trump's going to send out the National Guard if we don't comply. Look what he's doing right now, because Minnesota isn't complying. So he's now overriding whatever checks and balances we had. Now, do you think that Trump is not part of it? They allowed him to be president. You think they would have if they think he's not going to cooperate when they bring down the Iron Curtain around the world, when they start this thing that they've been telling us it's an agenda? Yes, we've had a little break to get the economy going and get some infrastructure in place behind the scenes, get some distractions going on while that's going on so you don't know what's going on. But once they get it all in place, guys, bam! Do you not know what I'm saying? Are you not aware? Are you not awake? This is coming down. And after May of this year, sometime it's going to hit. I guarantee it. So listen up. They have sovereignty clauses. Well, why are they making sovereignty clauses and exceptions? And we don't really have any powers. Please sign it. Because if they put those clauses in there, it gives people the backup or the excuse to say, well, they made some clauses that, guarantee that it can't be done like just with a stroke of a pen, but it's got to go through your government, so I'm going to sign it. Okay, why? Why are we signing this? They knew years ago when they made this agenda that this was going to happen. Bill Gates said, oh, it's going to happen, right? He said, this is what's going to happen. Another pandemic worse than the other one's coming. I guarantee it, he said. Well, they've been preparing for something that, why would it happen? Do you know that I've gone back and found that all the other pandemics of the past, for instance, polio, did you know that that was caused from the VA? I can't say anymore. From the thingy in those years, that they have proven that the thingy went through and then everybody got a polio. And they have proven it was directly caused from that. And this last one, millions of people are supposedly DEA, D, but yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Nobody's talking about it. Oh, let's just move on. No, nothing to see here. Everything's just fine. 9/11, boom. Going to Afghanistan. Nope. Oh, Iraq. We're going to wipe them out. Boom. Weapons of mass destruction. Oh, look at Venezuela. We've been financing the drug trafficking for 50 years. And now we're going to blame it on some poor little group of people in Venezuela that were trained to be terrorists, brought into our country by our own government, only to make it legal for us to have martial law? Friends, you better wake up fast. Whatever Trump's doing is going to tie in with whatever this is. I guarantee it. So the status of the WHO pandemic agreement, the current status is negotiations for the final terms of the agreement are ongoing. Why are they doing this? What do we need a government to draw up plans to take over the world if something happens? And of course it's going to, because Bill Gates said it will. And but yeah, your government has the right to say no, but no, we don't. Because all the governments are going to be pressured by this media and propaganda. And look what's going on. They got two sides. They're going to probably finance both sides. There'll be people demonstrating in the streets and rioting because they're making us wear MASKs, and the other group, trying to kill the other group because they don't wear the MASKs because they're believing this pill, and the other one's taking the other red pill, and everybody's hating everybody. It's your fault that we're all dying, and nobody realizes that it was all an agenda. The purpose, well, it says that it's ongoing with a goal to present a completed version to the United States in 2026. The purpose, the agreement focuses on equity, ensuring poorer nations get that. Well, all that means is that we can demand, not making sure they get it, making sure they're forced to get it. Guys, I might get taken down off of YouTube for this video. If I do, well, look, somebody's got to tell you. Please, every one of my subscribers, please record this video. Put it all over your Facebookie, your Instagrammies, your TikTokies, your YouTube accounts, the shorts, whatever you got to do. But keep it in your computer as a file. Do not lose it. Do not delete it. This video, you need to have it. You need to share it with as many people as possible. So it's surveillance of news. Surveillance? They're using that word in bold print. Surveillance of news. Oh, right. Like in thousands of years, the world's gone on just fine. But now we've got to have an entire worldwide, one world government surveilling something called a virus that we've already seen they claim is terrible, but their cure is worse. And their goal is absolute and final complete control. I guarantee it. I promise you guys, if you don't listen to me and get out into the wilderness now, you will not survive this. I say this, when will the agreement be reached, and does it say that they will restrict travel, try to remove property rights, enforce digital passports, and the WHO director can declare that a pandemic exists without real process and demand compliance if the thingy or buy the thingy that are made within 100 days, whatever. And they say as January 26th, the official status and details of the WHO pandemic agreement are as follows. Adoption date. A historic consensus was reached on the WHO pandemic agreement text on May 20th, 2025. Okay, on May 20th, 2025, they did reach an historic agreement. Who's in charge? Who's making the agreement? Not you and I. This is not a democracy, and it's not your father's Buick. This is during the 78th World Health Assembly. Finalization. While the main treaty was adopted, some technical annexes, specifically the pathogen access and the benefit sharing system, are still being finalized. Why is it taking so long? Either they've got to go slow because they don't want you to know what's going on, or it's so ridiculous that even they are having a hard time, signing it and getting it passed, right? But it's still being finalized. It's tentatively scheduled for adoption at the 79th World Health Assembly in May of 2026. Friends, that's just about 3 months away, and then we're done. Entry into force. Once it's finalized, the agreement requires 60 nations to ratify it through their own domestic legal processes. Now, if they get 60 nations to ratify it, and guess what I believe? They will. And if they do, doesn't that tell you that something's afoot? That these nations aren't asking the people whether they agree, but it's somehow a bunch of people that work for Bill Gates and George Soros and Donald Trump or whoever, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or whoever. These are the people that are making these decisions, and I guarantee they're going to ratify it. It says 60 nations ratify it. What does that mean? Is our Congress going to take this up? And what do you think our Congress will do? What do you think most Congresses in the world will do? Well, based on what we've seen, when they all decided that we all had to wear a mask in the past, and we all had to lose our jobs and ruin our businesses, and got police with billy clubs in the street, kicking and beating people because what? They don't want to put an mask on, or what is this? This is, guys, if you can't see what's going on, man, you're blind. So they address my specific concerns restricting travel. The agreement does not give the WHO power to ban or restrict travel. You notice they didn't say, they didn't ask for banning travel. They're asking for it. But it's just saying that the WHO doesn't actually give the order, the final order to ban travel. The various governments are going to give those final orders, but they've already ratified it, for the love of Pete. So it aims to prevent the massive disruptions seen in 2020 by encouraging better coordination. In other words, more control, absolute control, no dissent. And so coordinating international travel can be maintained as safely as possible. In other words, they're throwing these words like safety and all of that in there, but what they mean is they're going to control all travel. Then we've got property rights. The treaty focuses on intellectual property, sharing for life, saving medicines during crises. It encourages voluntary technology transfers and does not grant the WHO authority. Well, again, they can't have authority to seize physical property from individuals or nations, but it doesn't say they're not trying to seize property from individuals and nations, just that they don't have the final word. Your government does, but when the government ratifies it, you know what they're going to do when they declare the pandemic. So, digital passports, the WHO has launched a global digital health certification network based on the EU's the thingy certificate system. However, the treaty clarifies that this is a voluntary infrastructure for nations. In other words, the nations that already signed it into law and ratified it, they're already saying they're going to do it. It's being put into place. The people who dissented were fired. The lady who's telling you this at the beginning of the clip was fired. Nobody in authority who is ratifying this right now is a dissenter or anybody who cares about you. This is going through. I guarantee it. And you better wake up. It's not voluntary in the sense of the word, but they're wanting to what? Verify health records like a thingy for yellow fever or polio. Remember, polio never existed. It was the result of another, thingy that happened back in the 20s or 30s or whatever, the March of Dimes. I don't know if you guys remember this, you youngins. We lost a lot of people in different thingies that have been going on. And if you look it up and do any research, you'll find it was all manufactured. And it's worse than we could even imagine because we have no idea. That's just the stuff that we figured out. We don't even realize that every one of these so-called diseases were made at Fort Detrick in a laboratory. And you guys just don't want to believe it. You just don't want to get it. You don't want to face it. You're still going to go to your little church and sit in a little pew and put your money in the pot. And you don't care that your pastor or your pope or your bishop is diddling the children. You don't care about nothing. And if you don't, wake up. You aren't just going to die, but you're going to be coming back to a world controlled by these evil, wicked people because you chose it. You have every right at this very moment to dissent and say, no, thank you. I'm getting out of Babylon. I'm going out into the wilderness with David Vos in the mountains. But you say, no, that guy's crazy. I ain't going out there. I'm going with the government. Okay, you made your choice. But I just want you to know you've been warned. The director of the general's power. Yeah, the public health emergency of international concern. What? The PHEIC, they got a whole department that's working on your concerns and how to overcome them. Do you think they care about your concerns? Here's what that means. They're concerned that you might be a little concerned, so they're going to try to find a way to bypass your rights, your will, your God-given freedom. And they can't bypass it. If you will just make the decision to get out of the world, they can't do nothing about it. But if you just sit there and fiddly-diddly around, playing your tiddly-winks and all your hopscotch with all the rest of the children, well, then you're done. And they're going to try and force you to do it. And regardless of your rights, they're going to take away whatever rights you may have had. They say that power already exists under the 2005 International Health Regulations. Oh, goody. The 100-day thingy. The 100-day mission is an aspirational scientific goal to develop the thingies within 100 days. Oh, boy, that's their goal. My only goal in life when I grow up is I want to make poison, and I want to do it in 100 days, and I want all the world to be forced into taking it, please. Huh? These guys are sick. And I'll tell you something, there's only one person sicker than the individuals that are creating this, and that is you, if you are going to let yourself be controlled and you're going to let this happen to you and your family, and you're not going to even do nothing. Then I think you're sicker than the people that's doing this. Honestly, that's my opinion of all of you who do not immediately pack your bags and get out into the wilderness. So, I say, isn't all this in the fine details? If they recommend things, travel, restrictions, passport, compliance, property seized, because if there are supposed concerns for safety or something, that they already have to internal structure set up in the first pandemic of 2020 to acquire the authority they need. We saw, even in the first pandemic, that they could shut down the economy or require masks or have people fired for not complying. What possible outcome could we expect other than even more authority and chains of authority being put into place to control societies around the world? Look at the scenes in Australia and other European governments where people were literally forced to comply, and then many were jailed. And they say 2026, the discussion around the WHO pandemic agreement remains intense, specifically regarding whether the fine details could eventually lead to the loss of national control. In 2025, finalized treaty text and current international law addresses these concerns directly. Sovereignty and legal authority. The same dribbledy-drip like they gave us before old RFK Jr. Oh, it's not mandatory. Just, oh, please trust us. Everything will be fine. Compliance. Oh, don't worry about that. Ooh, well, you're conspiracy theorist. Oh, well, I think we'll have to take your channel down because you're talking stuff like, right out straight from your heart, and that's just not fair. Your beliefs don't matter. You're not allowed to tell people that life is not evil and wicked, and we don't need to be controlled by some organization called who. Like, who runs this? I don't know who. That's what I said, who. And this is ridiculous, isn't it? It's kind of like a Laurel and Hardy skit, right? Who's on first base? Oh my gosh. Yeah, some guy named Who was on first base and they couldn't, digital passports, travel, global digital health certification network. It's a tool for control. Its status is voluntary participation. In other words, voluntary by nations, not individuals. Once your government mandates it, it's not voluntary. The nations or the governments of the world supposedly are voluntarily going to comply, but you know that they're already set to comply. They're all being financed by the same people. Data privacy, property rights. The thing is 100 days. Another thing. The role of the director general. He's just an advisory, health emergency, international concern. And this is an advisory declaration. It serves as a global alarm bell. Alarm bell. And then what does the people over there, over at the switch, that controls the governments of the world, what are they going to do when they hear the bell? Well, they're trained rats. They're going to flip the switch and you're going to be done. The summary of future outcomes, blah, blah, blah. Here's my final question. Isn't every government on earth right now mandated to follow the Congress or Senates of their countries that are all financed by billionaires who have set up policies that through various agencies already have channels of control like Fauci did before, who worked for a billionaire, Bill Gates, not the public? Even the president is, by means of the media, run propaganda machine and their financial donors capable of demanding such things as I brought up before. It seems this WHO is an organization financed by the people who have control over our governments. Didn't they call it an agenda way before any outbreak of some supposed pandemic? If it's an agenda, why should we think it's not going to happen? Please answer this, and please do not just give me links, but in your words, answer if I am correct or how I am wrong. Please. Crickets. They will not answer that question. They gave me some links, which I don't care to click on. I'm going to leave it there, guys. This is your last warning. Well, no, I won't say that. I'm going to continue to warn you as many, as long as I have left. I've decided I'm going to stay on this YouTube doing my videos. They may take me down, but I'm going to go full steam ahead. And guys, please, if you have a brain, if you have a heart, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, if you are a human being and are not already completely controlled by the beast, please help me to get this out. Please share these videos. Please do everything in your power and start packing up your stuff. Buy some land out here in the Rockies near me. Come on, guys. Please, let's get going. I'm David Vos. You know the Lord loves you all. He loves every one of you, and he's trying to get you to understand. You see it all around you, but you just need to wake up. His grace and his peace will be with you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.